Hello, and I'm doing this next series of videos pretty much by popular demand. I want to give you guys a repertoire for the lazy people. If Homer Simpson was a chess player, he would love this series of videos. I'm going to show you an opening which you can play with the white pieces, which is dynamic, exciting, but very easy to learn. An opening where you don't have to know a lot of theory. It's really a lazy opening. So it's perfect for us players who don't want to read every latest article on our beloved opening. We can play this in a simple yet effective way. What is the opening? It is the London system. And in this opening, we have a setup. It's an opening from the white point of view. And I must point out, I've done a YouTube video on my channel about this, but I'm going to go into more depth here for the subscribers of chess.com and for everyone else. I'm just going to give you a little taster at the start here to what the London system is all about. Now, it really is a great opening from white. It's a simple yet effective plan. Now, to start with in this video, and it's going to be at least a 5-part video series, I'm just going to introduce you to the setup from white and show you a quick game where it works very well. So I've really come up with a 5-stage rules, 5 rules that I want you to remember at home in order just to get this lazy opening. And then that's really all you need is a little basic starter to learn the London system. So what is rule 1? What is the London system? Well, rule 1 is with the London system, you all start with your queen's pawn. So I'm not going to play any black moves here, you can note. I'm just showing you white's starting setup. So our starting setup is to create this, should we say, that's our front man, that's our front runner. We all start with d4, and next of all, we bring our bishop out to f4. So this is rule 1. Start with a pawn in the center, and then your bishop out to f4, a nice active square. What do we do next? Well, the next thing we can do, and I should point out, the move order sometimes changes with this. You might have to sometimes change around the rules, but it's always the same basic idea. The next thing I want you to do is create a pyramid. So what I mean by that is place one pawn on c3 and one pawn on e3. And this creates what we could say is a bit of a pyramid structure here with our forerunner at the front of that pyramid. And what this does is it really gives us a very strong and solid setup in the middle of the board, which we can base and attack around. So rule 2, create this pyramid. What is rule 3? Well, we've got to bring our remaining pieces out. And our remaining pieces are our knights and our bishops. So where should these pieces go? Well, this knight normally comes to f3 first. And you can even play this before making your pyramid totally. It depends on the move order that black plays. And then our knight generally comes to d2. So we bring our knights out first. Our bishop, where should our bishop go? It should sit just behind the pyramid on d3, because this is a very aggressive bishop pointing over at black's kingside, and this works especially true when he castles, as we'll see very shortly. So this is rule 3. And what's rule 4 and 5? Well, rule 4 often is knight to e5. This is a very good starting attack. And rule 5 is a flexible rule, which we must come on to later. So actually, I'm really calling this really only four rules. Rule 5 could be h4, depending on the situation, or e4. But as the videos go on, we'll see a bit more about that. But let's just stick to those 4 rules for now. So that's really all you need to know the basic setup of this London system. But now for subscribers to chess.com, we'll have a look at this in more depth and look at a beautiful game where white used this setup to destroy his opponent. So I'm going to now bring up this game, and we can see exactly, I think, a model game for this setup. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this kind of idea, a little bit, go into some more depth about the moves. And also here, it's going to be a little bit trickier because black's going to be playing moves as well. Always a pity when your opponent plays moves, but it has to happen at times. So let's do this again. Speaking about the rules we know. So d4, this is the head of our pyramid. Knight to f6. And now what's our next move? Bishop to f4. And after this move, well, Black has a number of setups, but in the first couple of videos for this series, we're concentrating on setups where black plays d5. And again, you can see there is some flexibility here. Black could have played d5 and move 1, could have played it on move 2. And I'm going to talk a bit more about black's other setups a little bit later. But just to clarify, against this move d5, we're going to stick with our pyramid. But if black doesn't play the move d5 and instead goes for some plan with g6, which is kind of, we should say, an Indian structure, King's Indian structure, even a, should we say, Grunfeld structure, in this type of position, we don't create the full pyramid. This is where we have to change things a little bit, but I won't confuse you there. For the first couple of videos, we're concentrating on the move d5 and these types of positions. Now, I would play e3 here. The actual game in question took a different move order, but it's really not so important. And now c5, and now c3, creating our pyramid. Knight to c6 here. And this is the first little tricky moment actually here. And move order is so important when you're playing chess. Now, at the start, we've done, by the way, rule 1, and we've done rule 2, create our pyramid. Rule 3 is develop our minor pieces. And as always in chess, things change depending what our opponent does. I did say at the start, knight to f3 is the normal move you play. In this position, it's actually a slight mistake. One move you always watch out for in the London system is queen to b6. This is a move which is quite annoying. And if black is getting ready to play this after you've done stage 1 and 2, I always prefer moving my knight to d2 first. Why is this? Well, now if queen to b6, we don't have as many problems down on b2 as he would if the knight was still sleeping. And this common way of meeting queen b6 is with queen b3. Now, don't fall asleep and think, oh my words, it's an ending. Oh no, I don't want to do this. Look, when you're playing chess, you have to be willing to take all types of positions on. And this is a very comfortable ending. While I'm doing this video, I've just been watching the World Blitz Championships and Rapid Championships, and it's amazing to see how many London systems being played there. In actual fact, Magnus Carlsen, the current world champion, has been playing the London system, this particular variation that we're going to demonstrate in most of his games. So it's going to be a very, I think, attractive opening soon, and it is already. Now, the idea of this queen b3 is that if black ever takes the queens, you get a very nice pawn structure and an open A file. So you're slightly better here. That's all we need from the opening. If black ever pushes on with c4, you've made him push his pawn on. So that pawn is not attacking the top of our pyramid, the d4 square anymore. So here we don't exchange queens. We slip the queen back to c2. And what we want to do next in most positions, let's say after e6, is attack that pawn black's moved with b3. And this is the same idea we just saw. If black takes on b3, we open up the A file and we get a bigger center because we have more pawns in the center of the board. And why is it important in this position to have our knight on d2? Well, the reason is, let's go back. If we went knight to f3 first, let's say instead of knight d2, and now queen b6, queen b3, c4, queen c2. Black has a very frustrating move here, bishop to f5. And this is offering the bishop, but if we take the bishop, queen takes b2. And the difference here is our knight is on b1, so we can't play rook to b1. And this wouldn't be a problem in our preferred move order. So as you can see, I'm going into some detail, but I want to try to cover you as much as I can here. Anyway, let's go back to the game in question. And the game in question continued a little bit differently. We got our setup, so let's just get around here. And black played e6, and then bishop to e7. Now, there are two ways black normally plays in this kind of position. Okay, I want to move my knight to f3. I just want to make that clear, but it doesn't matter too much. It's the same idea. Black can either move his bishop to e7 or bishop to d6. Now, if he ever blinks his bishop on c8 out first, we should then go queen to b3 because b7 is weak, but no top players play this. Now, after bishop to e7, I think we have a very attractive attacking possibility here. And I don't think bishop to e7 is a very good move. I'm going to show you why now. Bishop to d3, we've created and finished stage 3 now. Now, there's a number of moves that black can play here, but we're following the game in question. Let's say a move like a6. Castles will be similar. What was our next stage? Stage 4. Well, when the bishop's on e7, stage 4 is always knight into e5. This frees our queen up and it gives us great energy in the position. Now, when black castles here, this is the important stage. And this is where you have to be a bit flexible depending on black's setup. Well, black has his bishop on e7. And in this kind of position, I try to avoid castling myself because we want to checkmate black. And there's a very big, massive trick here. My favorite move in this position is pawn to h4. Why? Well, I want to create a pawn storm on this area of the board, but mainly I want to support the g5 square. And this is a deadly idea, very, very nasty idea for black. Black has to be extremely careful in these positions. Now, if he doesn't do anything, we can simply push g4, g5, and etc. attack. And our king is quite safe here because of the pyramid defending it. We don't need to castle. If black takes on e5, we're now going to see the venom behind the pawn on h4. We take with our pawn always. This is a key idea. Remember, always take your pawn. This is another rule to remember. When black takes on e5, take with a pawn. And when the knight retreats, there's a devastating idea here. Can you potentially see a brilliant attacking situation here? The Greek gift. Bishop takes h7 check. And this is why the pawn is on h4. After king takes, queen to h5 check. And after king g8, we have a slow yet very effective idea. Knight to f3. And this knight, even though we're a whole piece down, who said the London system's boring? Not me. Is coming to g5 with a simple idea, queen to h7 checkmate. And this plan would not be possible unless there is a pawn on h4. It wouldn't be possible if we castled. This is why only against bishop e7, I like an early h4 as one of our further stages after we've done the initial one. And here, there's nothing really black can do. And the game in question between Gogolis and Rainer Wentz continued f6, trying to stop the knight coming in. But did it stop it? Oh, no. Knight to g5. It dives into the position anyway. The threat is checkmate, so we give up a second piece, and after black takes it, look at how strong Harry now becomes. Harry, the h-pawn, moves to the Gary file, but double power over here. And the simple threat is g6 and queen h8 checkmate. Black decided the only way to defend against this was to try to give up his bishop. So he played bishop takes g5. So we get one piece back. But after queen c7, f4, white still had this devastating attack on the open file. And the game ended d4. Well, black has really no development. Look at these pieces sleeping in la la land. So white got his last piece into the game, the rook on a1, by castling queenside. Pawn takes c3. We're not worried about that. It's only one foot soldier attacking us. That's not going to scare us. Queen h7 check, king f7. A lovely move here from white. Rook h6. Such a beautiful move. It reminds me of a game that Tao played, which you can see in the archive I've done. Queen g6 check is one idea. Pawn takes b2, and now king b1. Black actually resigned here, even though he's a piece up, because he felt helpless to what was going to happen. For example, let's say he tries c4, trying to go c3, c2. Well, the idea now is queen g6 check, only one square for the king, and now the last white piece comes to h1, and there's a threat of rook h8 checkmate. So very devastating stuff. So it's really a little introduction to the London system here. Let me just run through it one more time for you. So we're going to go d4. Now against d5, this is what we're doing our first 3 videos on. We're going to go bishop f4. We don't develop this knight quite yet. And now, well, there's a couple of move orders black can play. Black normally brings his knight out, but if he plays a move like c5, we can just create our pyramid here straight away, because we want to support that square. So you've got to be wary of the move order. But when he brings the knight out, I would finish the pyramid first. This is my preferred order. And when the knight comes here, remember, if you're not careful here, there's a queen b6 move. But if we go knight d2 first, queen b6 is not as worrying because queen b3, c4, queen c2. The idea is to go b3, undermining that pawn structure. And if bishop f5, we can simply take it because our rook is not in danger anymore. And what black generally does, and what this video is dealing with, we'll come to other options later on, is e6. And now he's gone e6. As a general rule, as soon as he plays e6, we can bring our knight out to f3. Why? Because we don't have to worry about bishop f5 anymore. So another rule there, once e6 has played, knight to f3. And after this, we're concentrating here on bishop to e7, most popular move at club level. Now we finish our development with bishop to d3. This is stage 3. And let's say black castles. What's the next stage with bishop to e7? Well, our knight flies into the center. And in this type of position, if black ever captures the knight, we always take with our pawn. And here, we can't do the Greek gift quite yet because we haven't got our pawn on h4. So in this kind of position, I'd recommend h4. And now black has to be extremely careful. If he plays a move like c4, bishop takes h7 will lead to this attack we just saw. So that's my first introduction to the London system. I know it's quite a lot to take in, but hopefully this whole series will give you a very good overview and everything you need to know for the London system to be an effective yet deadly opening for you.